Something that seemed impossible has happened. The heart of the United Kingdom is ablaze. London is embroiled in a constitutional war no one saw coming. A direct clash between King Charles and Mayor Sadiq Khan that threatens to turn the country upside down. 5 days ago, Khan announced the so-called London Citizenship Charter, a decree forcing businesses to sign diversity agreements under threat of absurd fines, up to £50,000. The speech was applauded by the capital's progressive elite, but it sounded like a slap in the face to millions of Britons who see this agenda as the start of an ideological dictatorship. And then the unthinkable happened. The king reacted. For the first time in 3 centuries, Charles used a power buried deep within the Constitution: the Crown intervention. A near-legendary political weapon allowing the monarchy to challenge local authorities' measures in the name of national sovereignty. Palace sources say Buckingham Palace itself leaked the letter Charles sent to MPs, questioning whether Khan had overstepped legal bounds. It was a calculated, cold, and devastating move. The silence did not last long. All of London stopped. What began as just another municipal decree suddenly became a power struggle between tradition and revolution, and the whole of the United Kingdom held its breath. Khan's response came laced with rage and desperation. Yesterday, at 4 in the afternoon, he climbed the podium before a crowd outside City Hall, his voice trembling, fists clenched. The king was not elected. I was, he fired back, as the crowd cheered and waved colorful flags. London will lead Britain into the 21st century, whether the establishment likes it or not. The scene seemed straight out of a revolution film, but the tone bordered on chaos. Journalists present, said his chief advisor, David Bellamy, frantically gestured for him to end the speech. Khan ignored him completely. He was possessed by rhetoric, feeding off the euphoria of activists, crossing lines even his allies dared not touch. Then came the sentence that set everything alight. How many palaces does one family need while Londoners sleep on the streets? The crowd erupted, but inside Westminster, the shock was absolute. MPs, including those from his own party, fell silent before the cameras. Within minutes, Khan's words became global headlines, but on social media, what seemed like courage turned to arrogance. For many Britons, this was not an act of bravery. It was a direct attack on the soul of the kingdom. It was the moment the mayor of London ceased to be just a controversial politician and became, for much of the country, the man who tried to humiliate the king. But the most devastating twist was yet to come. As Khan spoke of equality, the story of a 73-year-old British veteran began spreading like wildfire online. His name, James Morrison, a Falklands War veteran who lost a leg defending the United Kingdom. For over 3 decades, Morrison lived in a small flat in Cudden, until he was evicted, according to leaked documents, to make way for social housing, intended to meet quotas under Khan's new program. Now, the war hero sleeps at his daughter's house, surviving on a $900 monthly pension. I fought for this country, and now there's no room for me, he said, tears streaming down his face. The phrase became a symbol of something greater, a country that abandons those who defend it, yet spends millions on diversity slogans. Data obtained by reporters showed that Khan's office spent over £2 million on ideological consultants last year, and $18,000 in a single weekend at a luxury resort in Surrey. £18,000 at a spa, while pensioners freeze in flats without heating. The backlash was immediate. A retired nurse, Sarah Jenkins, wept before the camera. I voted for him twice. I believed in him. But he cares more about his own image than about the people. Her video surpassed 1 million views. In just 3 days, Khan's approval rating plummeted 18 points, the fastest political collapse of his career. And as the mayor's popularity melted away before the nation's eyes, King Charles did something no monarch had done in decades. He faced the chaos head-on. Last night, during a reception at Buckingham Palace for Commonwealth leaders, the king broke protocol and delivered the most political speech by a British sovereign since World War II. The traditions that bind this nation, he declared firmly, cannot be discarded by those who mistake temporary power for permanent authority. London belongs to all Britons, not to the ideological whims of a single mayor. The room fell silent. Diplomats froze mid-conversation. Royal aides exchanged panicked glances. Sources close to the palace reveal that advisers tried to stop the king from including these lines, fearing an institutional earthquake. But he insisted. He rewrote the speech 3 times, each version sharper than the last. He knew he was drawing a red line, and he crossed it on purpose. It was the moment the monarchy ceased to be a passive symbol and returned to acting as the nation's guardian. On the other side, Khan's response came within minutes. A Twitter post attacking the king for protecting inherited privileges. But the courage was short-lived. The tweet was deleted 17 minutes later. It was too late. Screenshots spread across the internet, and the image of a nervous, cornered mayor was etched in the minds of millions. The damage was done, and the political impact was devastating. Experts called Khan's reaction a fatal communication error. You do not challenge a monarch at midnight on Twitter and then delete what you said. According to analysts, this is the kind of move that destroys reputation. Hours later came the blow many describe as the final act of the Labour Party's confidence in its own mayor. Keir Starmer, Labour leader, issued an official statement saying that the mayor's views do not represent the party. It was like watching a political funeral in real time. The market itself reacted. The pound fell 0.3% within minutes of Charles's speech, and the drop wiped more than $1.2 billion from London's financial sector in a single day. The city, a symbol of British stability, had become the epicenter of uncertainty. Protests began almost immediately. Thousands of citizens with Union flags took Trafalgar Square and marched to London Bridge, shouting, "God save the King!" On the other side, groups of Khan's supporters also gathered, and tension exploded. Violent clashes left officers injured, vehicles burned, and the feeling that London was on the brink of something bigger, something that could redefine the very notion of power in the United Kingdom. For the first time in decades, the people seemed to choose a side between the throne and populism. While the city burned, inside City Hall, the atmosphere was one of absolute despair. Insider sources report that Khan's team collapsed. Emergency meetings turned into shouting matches and accusations. The deputy mayor, Sophie Linden, allegedly threatened to resign after saying that the mayor crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Another advisor in a leaked conversation said Khan was exhausted, paranoid, and obsessed with what people say about him on Twitter. Those close to him claim he spends sleepless nights checking mentions, calling allies, begging them not to abandon him. It is the portrait of a man surrounded on all sides, trapped in the very snare he built. And then, as if the crisis were not explosive enough, the Telegraph published what it called the emails that could bring down a mayor. Direct leaks from Khan's office revealed strategy meetings dated September, in which his team explicitly discussed fabricating a conflict with the crown. The goal? To mobilize progressive voters before the next elections. One passage read, "We need a villain. The monarchy is perfect. Rich, traditional, unelected. Everything our audience rejects." If confirmed, these documents not only prove manipulation, they prove political betrayal. Khan did not react to the king's intervention. He planned it, and the whole country began to see the scandal in a new light. Suddenly, the entire narrative turned against him. What once seemed a bold mayor now appeared as a cold conspirator, willing to set the country's institutions alight for electoral gain. The email leak was like a political atomic bomb, and the explosion hit the heart of the Labour Party. Westminster sources say Labour MPs are preparing a censure motion against Khan, fearing the crisis will spread and taint the party nationally. Meanwhile, Buckingham Palace maintains a strategic silence, reinforcing the image of a serene, steadfast king concerned for the good of the realm. The contrast could not be more brutal. On one side, an impulsive mayor, shouting and deleting tweets. On the other, a calm monarch, speaking of tradition and duty. Opinion polls show the result of this contrast. Support for the monarchy soared to its highest level since the 2012 Jubilee, while Khan's ratings plummet in every index. Even young people who once supported him now question his ability to govern. The whole country seems to awaken from an ideological trance and ask, who truly defends England? The militant politician or the king who refuses to let the United Kingdom become just another republic in ruins? And at this point, something even deeper began to happen. A cultural awakening, a kind of silent reaction against years of ideological impositions from above. While Khan sank deeper into speeches about inclusion, the public saw their streets filled with violence, their neighborhoods taken over by absurd taxes and rules, and a city that felt less and less British. A survey released by independent institutes showed that 68% of Londoners over 50 believe that the traditions of the United Kingdom are being erased by political agendas. And it was in this sense of loss that King Charles's words found their power. By invoking the roots of the monarchy and the heritage of centuries, he did not just respond to a mayor, he gave voice to what millions thought but were afraid to say. According to Daily Mail columnists, the reaction in the streets was immediate. Veterans, workers, and ordinary families began hanging Union flags in their windows. "This is not about politics," said one protester in Trafalgar Square. "It's about who we are." Meanwhile, conservative leaders saw the opportunity they had waited years for, to turn Khan's collapse into the spark of a patriotic renaissance. The confrontation between the king and the mayor was no longer just an institutional dispute. It had become the symbol of a battle between two possible futures for Britain. While the city burned, inside City Hall, the mood was one of absolute desperation. Insider sources report that Khan's team collapsed. Emergency meetings turned into shouting matches and accusations. The deputy mayor, Sophie Linden, allegedly threatened to resign after saying that the mayor crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Another advisor, in a leaked conversation, said Khan was exhausted, paranoid, and obsessed with what people say about him on Twitter. Those close to him claim he spends sleepless nights checking mentions, calling allies, begging them not to abandon him. It is the portrait of a man surrounded on all sides, trapped in the very snare he built. And then, as if the crisis were not explosive enough, the Telegraph published what it called the emails that could bring down a mayor. Direct leaks from Khan's office revealed strategy meetings dated September, in which his team explicitly discussed fabricating a conflict with the Crown. The goal? To mobilize progressive voters before the next elections. One passage read, "We need a villain. The monarchy is perfect, rich, traditional, unelected, everything our audience rejects." If confirmed, these documents not only prove manipulation, they prove political betrayal. Khan did not react to the king's intervention. He planned it, and the whole country began to see the scandal in a new light. If you want to follow every twist of this crisis and receive the next bombshells firsthand, subscribe now and leave a like. This shows you stand with unfiltered information against the silence of the mainstream media and helps me bring you new leaks, behind-the-scenes insights, and exclusive documents in the coming hours. What is coming could completely change the course of the United Kingdom, and you will want to be here when the truth explodes. And it is precisely at this turning point that the channel's audience needs to act. If you want to follow every twist and receive the next bombshells firsthand, subscribe now and leave a like. This shows you stand with unfiltered information and helps me bring you new data and insights in the coming hours. What is about to happen could completely change the political course of London, and the next 48 hours will be decisive. The pressure is now total. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch sensed blood in the water and went on the attack. In a live broadcast from Westminster, she was direct. While Sadiq Khan attacks the king, real Londoners suffer. Crime is out of control. Businesses are fleeing. And the mayor responds by attacking the one institution that still unites this country. The speech sounded like the start of a campaign, and the numbers back up every word. Under Khan's leadership, crime rates have risen by over 30%, rents have soared by nearly 50%, and more than 12,000 small businesses have left the city in the past year alone. The data was repeated on national networks, and the political blow was immediate. A wave of support swept through conservative bases. Polls released by YouGov point to a historic shift. For the first time since 2016, the Conservatives lead voting intentions in London. And more, sources close to Badenoch say she is already planning to turn the Khan case into a symbol of resistance against globalism. The local battle has become a national manifesto. On one side, the old progressive elite trying to maintain control of the capital. On the other, the popular movement demanding security, sovereignty, and respect for tradition. The whole of the United Kingdom watches this collision of worlds with the sense that something much bigger is about to happen. The next 72 hours will be a minefield. On Monday, Khan will face a vote of no confidence in the London Assembly itself, and insider sources say some Labour councillors have already decided to abandon him. On Thursday, Parliament will convene an emergency debate, demanding a formal investigation into whether the mayor violated the constitutional limits of his office. And on Saturday, something unprecedented. Over 100,000 protesters are expected to take to the streets of central London in a pro-monarchy march, with veterans, families, and patriotic groups coming from all regions of the United Kingdom. Police are already preparing barriers and reinforcing troops. Analysts say it could be the largest show of support for the king since the coronation. Meanwhile, in Khan's office, panic reigns. Reports suggest he told allies, "If I fall, I take half the party with me." It is the portrait of a man cornered, about to be swallowed by his own ambition. And in the corridors of Westminster, MPs murmur what few dare say in public. The United Kingdom is on the brink of a constitutional crisis. The question hanging in the air is grim. If the mayor defies both the king and Parliament at the same time, who governs, after all? And what makes it all even more explosive is the international factor. The foreign press is treating the conflict as the monarchy's greatest upheaval since the abdication of 1936. BBC World speaks of an unprecedented institutional rupture. Meanwhile, American and European outlets describe King Charles as the last bastion of traditional order in the West. Analysts in Washington say the tension in the United Kingdom echoes throughout the Commonwealth, and that a weakening of the British throne could inspire separatist movements in Scotland and Northern Ireland. Meanwhile, investors flee London, and the mood in the markets is one of uncertainty. Bloomberg sources report that international funds are transferring billions to more stable markets, fearing the political crisis will destroy confidence in the British capital. And among diplomats, discomfort grows. If London collapses, Europe loses its moral axis, declared a European ambassador anonymously. This war has already broken out of Parliament's walls. It is a dispute that threatens the very role of the United Kingdom in the world. And the symbol of this confrontation is no longer just Khan and Charles. It is what each represents. On one side, chaotic globalism. On the other, sovereignty resisting cultural collapse. But the British people have already begun to decide, and not at the ballot box, but in the streets, in the windows, in the pubs, and in their hearts. There is a growing sense that Britain has reached its limit, that decades of cultural and political concessions have weakened the country to the point of rupture. It's not about left or right, a veteran told the press. It's about who still has the courage to defend the history that brought us. The monarchy, once seen by many as a distant symbol, is now treated as the last bulwark against chaos. Meanwhile, Khan seems increasingly isolated. MPs avoid being seen with him. Former allies fall silent. And on social media, the hashtag #StandWithTheKing explodes. The collapse is total. Reports indicate the mayor has cancelled public engagements and barely leaves his office. He knows he has lost the country, confided an advisor. The king, on the other hand, gains an aura of resistance, a monarch who dared to face the political storm to protect something greater than himself. It is this contrast that captivates millions. On one side, the decline of a leader consumed by ideology. On the other, the serenity of a king who, for the first time, did what many longed for, put the nation above politics. And now, the whole of the United Kingdom watches, in absolute suspense, the outcome of this historic battle. It is no longer just a dispute between a mayor and a king, it is a struggle for the very soul of Britain. In the coming days, we will either see the complete collapse of Sadiq Khan's political authority or witness a direct confrontation between the streets of London and the British throne. On one side, the mayor who tried to turn the capital into an ideological laboratory and lost control. On the other, a monarch who, tired of seeing tradition trampled, decided to act. The promise I made at the beginning is fulfilled now. What is at stake is the future. Who really governs the United Kingdom, after all? The crowd has chosen its side. Union flags flutter along the avenues, the bells of Westminster echo louder, and a message resonates across the country. Britain will not kneel before chaos. If Khan falls, he will fall for underestimating the power of the crown and the people who still believe in what it represents. And if the king resists, he will resist as a symbol of something the modern world tries to erase: the courage of a kingdom that, though wounded, refuses to forget who it is. The stage is set, and the next 48 hours will decide the fate of London, and perhaps the fate of the entire British monarchy.